Hi, this is Barry Coombs from ComputerWorld and To Find Tomorrow, and today we've got Nick Dyer in the office to give us a bit of an update on Nimble Storage, what's gone on kind of for the last year for me. I've had a little bit of time where I've not been keeping up to date as I should have done, so thank you for joining me, Nick.
Oh, you're welcome, thanks for having me.
So obviously the last time that I probably blogged about Nimble and spent a lot of time with you guys was the launch of your all-flash array, which I think's over a year now.
Yeah, February last year.
So it's been a busy year. There's lots of stuff happening in the news at the moment, which we're not going to concentrate on too much.
Yep.
But from a technology perspective, can you kind of start to give us a run through? So I think version 3 of your firmware was just coming out with the all-flash arrays, which was all very exciting.
Yep.
What's been going on for the last year inside Nimble?
Yeah, so it really has been quite an exciting last 12 months, is probably fair to say. So we launched our all-flash portfolio back in February last year. So it's something that we were working on internally for a good couple of years before we launched it. And we wanted to launch it primarily for a couple of reasons. One of them was that we knew that customers were really looking for all-flash in the market, so we wanted to have a compelling portfolio there. But also, we believed that actually if we waited a little bit and reinvented some of the things that we did, we actually would be able to be quite innovative with some of our new tech that we did with it. So we invented some really cool dedupe algorithms, we invented some really cool features around that technology, and that all got released in NimbleOS 3. Okay. So we launched NimbleOS 3 last year. We launched things such as automated quality of service within the firmware. We launched folders and Active Directory integration, as well as vVol integration with VMware for vSphere 6.
So dig into automated quality of service. What does that mean? I mean, quality of service is a term that we're used to hearing a lot in the networking world.
Yep.
Several vendors do talk about it in the storage world, but what does that actually mean inside Nimble?
Right, so we believed within our storage platform that we've got a very good way of handling random I/O and sequential I/O. However, there are certain applications that become very noisy, and they may not need to be noisy, or it may be noisy because of an accident. Okay. So a good example would be we're using a platform for shared storage for both UAT, test, and production. And I've got a SQL DBA that's doing some test work, and let's say he's spun up SQL I/O on that VM that he's working on because he wants to see what kind of throughput he's getting. Yeah. However, he's having a performance impact on the production workloads primarily because it's starving the I/O requirements of the solution. So we launched automated quality of service within NimbleOS 3. The idea behind that was essentially to allow us to be able to provision things such as time slicing CPUs and do fair memory sharing, and using historical I/O analysis as to what these applications typically do within the array. And if we see something bursting or doing something completely abnormal based on the historical impact, the array will actually quality of serve automatically that workload down to ensure that it's maintaining the consistent requirements of other workloads that it's seen beforehand. Okay. So if you've got a VM that's spiking all the way up to 20,000 I/O and it's starving all the I/O of the array, it will quality of serve it down because all the other I/Os of the array, which normally does around about 3,000 or 4,000, is now doing 1,000. Okay. It will quality of serve it down to ensure that the others can still do 3,000 or 4,000 I/O.
And I suppose this really kind of goes along with the progression of how storage has gone on, because if we have a look at how we did quality of service 10 years ago, we separated on separate servers with separate arrays, separate RAID groups for each of those data, and we make sure we designed it for that SQL database workload. With virtualization, it's all then come together.
Correct.
However, the earlier arrays, we had separate RAID volumes or LUNs, and we were separating it. We had a bottleneck or maybe a pinch point at the controller, but we had then separate RAID groups behind it.
Correct.
We've now seen sort of technology such as Nimble Storage and everything like that come out, where it was deemed that we've got so much performance in the early days that you can just put it all together. We're all putting it together. However, as the applications are progressing, as they're able to make more use out of the performance, we're now seeing the need to make sure that we're able to carve up and guarantee performance, especially where, as you kind of pointed out there with test and dev and production, theoretically it could be the same performance. But however, to the business, the production one is the imperative one. I need to know this is performing as it should do. And I think what we've also then seen is obviously the disks have come together. We haven't got the separate disk RAID arrays in the background. And then as we move forward with the kind of software-defined data center, which from Nimble's point of view is where your integration with vVols is really important.
Correct.
It's more about buckets of storage rather than worrying about what's going on in the background too much.
Yeah, I mean, your commentary is absolutely spot on. So typically we separate out with, in the old days, it used to be RAID 1 for logs and RAID 5 for DB, and guaranteeing workloads by provisioning storage with buckets of capacity or performance with RAID sets. What we tend to do now is of course, yes, we can pull everything together. You typically can't do that on a traditional array. With our technology, the way that we built our file system allows us to do so and remove the bottlenecks away from the disk media. But in essence, there's always going to be a pinch point.
Yeah.
And the pinch point now essentially might be certain applications which are starving other I/O or starving resource of requirements. And we call that the app data gap.
Okay.
So we've coined a terminology internally, which it could be an array issue, but actually it could be more than the array. It could be a network problem. It could be an issue within VMware or Hyper-V. We just don't really know. So what we're trying to do is provide a solution that reduces all of those problems in the stack.
And I think that really is important, because I think it depends who is administering the system. I think it's fair to say in this day and age, it's very rarely going to be a storage administrator managing a system such as a Nimble. Back 5-10 years ago, we probably did have those dedicated roles, but we're seeing those all come together. And the problem now is in that app data gap, as you are describing, it is actually, where is my problem? Because if you are traditionally an application administrator, you naturally either think the problem is with your piece of software or you blame some other component. But from a perspective of the guy that is now coming to have to bridge all the gaps, you need to know where that problem exists. And you may not have the deep level skills that you would have once had around storage, diagnosis and stuff like that. So that's where things like InfoSight that can help point you to that problem quickly and easily are really, really going to be important.
Yeah, so this app data gap thing is a real problem, because as we consolidate all of our silos down into one thing, when things go wrong, it's becoming a much more critical thing that we need to work on. And it's actually going really interesting. It's actually interesting because we're seeing other markets evolve and emerge, like hyperconverged and the cloud infrastructures. And throwing all your eggs into those baskets as well still brings in this app data gap. But the problem is it's still so much of a black box, it's really hard to troubleshoot or triage where a problem may lie. So the software-defined data centers is fantastic, but there needs to be a way to actually troubleshoot and triage when it may go wrong and how to fix it quickly.
And kind of take a bit of a segue now in terms of what we're talking about here, about kind of that app data gap, about the way that the industry is moving, the way that we're all moving to the cloud, whether we like it or not.
Correct.
The future of our industry is in the cloud. What does that actually mean? Putting your stuff in someone else's data center fundamentally. But what that shouldn't mean is you losing visibility, losing control. And this is very much where the latest announcement from you guys, Cloud Volumes, has come to fruition.
Yeah. So we've seen this happen and evolve over the last few years, and cloud storage is absolutely the way forward. You know, we all know that, and cloud compute, more importantly, is probably the way that we want to run certain things, such as UAT and test dev. What we're seeing is an evolvement in the industry where people have flirted with the cloud for kind of edge applications and things that's just really transient. They've then moved their tier 2 stuff into the cloud, and now they're starting to think about, okay, well, how do I move my mission critical workloads, my business critical workloads into the cloud architectures? And some of the reason being is that CIOs or CTOs are really looking at the cloud essentially as a last chance scenario to get rid of their performance issues. Yeah. Because if they've got to manage all this stuff internally, it's a real headache, especially with this app data gap. So just throwing it into the cloud and making it someone else's problem is a real good answer for them. The challenge with that is then you still have this black box scenario of, well, if it goes wrong in the cloud, how do you fix it?
And I think that is a problem across many aspects of it, not just with performance, but with data protection.
Yep.
That people go, okay, I'm going to put it in the cloud and then it's not my responsibility. However, when that application goes down, when that application doesn't perform, are you really going to pick the phone up to Microsoft and blame them for your problem? Right. Or is the business going to be looking at you as the IT manager, IT director to solve that problem for the business? Correct.
You know, we all know what happens. You call Amazon, you call Microsoft, you get a ticket and you wait in line with everyone else. And we saw this with the S3 outage that happened the other week. So the scary thing that we found about when we looked at cloud volumes in cloud storage was actually there's two real scary figures. The first scary figure is that cloud storage, like standard block cloud storage, is only 3 nines available. So 99.9% available. Now, any enterprise storage company or any enterprise IT company that was selling on-premises solutions would get thrown out the door if you said we are 3 nines available. The industry standard is 5 nines. In fact, Nimble's now a 6 9 available company. So we actually surpassed 6 nines availability in our customer base last year.
And I haven't got the figures off the top of my head, but actually if you look at the difference between 3 nines and 6 nines, it's a substantial amount of time for a business to actually, you could have downtime in any given year.
That's right.
Time frame.
So it is a serious amount of orders of magnitude different in between them. So it could be a difference between days and seconds.
And I think also we need to consider what workloads are we putting up to the cloud first, because largely the ones that we consider putting up to the cloud first are the ones that the customer is interacting with, because we think they're on the edge anyway. They're in our DMZ, it's our website, it's our ordering system, it's something like that. Those are the ones that potentially will have the biggest impact on your reputation, if not your business.
Absolutely, right. So customer-facing web servers, if they go down, that's the worst case scenario for everything, because if you're a retail shop, an e-commerce site, and they all go down, then that's bad. So you're absolutely right. But also, the crown jewels of any company is its data. Things like databases, ERP systems, CRM systems, those sorts of things are really the things that you need to protect and ensure that they're always available. Cloud storage doesn't give that availability, whether you like it or not. Unless you pay for a serious amount of money for a multiple availability zone replicated solution, you're going to be nowhere near. And then you're paying more than what you pay for your on-premises stuff. The other scary figure that we found was that 1 in 500 data sets that you put in the cloud, if you put 500 data sets in the cloud, you will lose one of those every single year. And it's guaranteed in the SLA. If you read it, you will lose one or two of those every single year. So that's like 1 or 2 VMs out of 500 will just drop off the face of the earth, and you've got to restore it from a backup. So what we kind of saw this as an opportunity to really provide enterprise class storage to cloud providers to allow customers to procure Nimble storage devices in Amazon or in Azure, to procure it and run it like it's purchasing their block storage, but it's actually Nimble-based technology. And you get all the feature sets, so you get our snapshot technology, our cloning technology, even our encryption technology as well. But you consume it and you grow it just like you would do in Amazon or Azure, but you get the SLA and the availability that we provide as an on-premises solution.
So it's kind of the Nimble that you know and love and that you're already trusting with your business.
Correct.
But available next to the cloud resources that you want to be consuming, but managed and maintained by Nimble as well. So you're getting it in that cloud kind of way. I suppose the question that people ask is how are you managing to achieve that? Because either A, are you doing it via some kind of software and running it in Azure and AWS, or actually the way that you are doing it is are you able to put those arrays in Azure or AWS? How are you achieving that, I suppose?
So the last thing that we want to do is put software into Azure or AWS, because then you're only as available as what those technologies are going to be. So what we've done is we've got a very, very well recognized service provider business around the world. A lot of those service providers actually provide location facilities for Azure and for Amazon. So they do co-location for those technologies, or they provide direct connections to those clouds at incredibly low latency links. So we've actually purchased and used Nimble Storage technologies in those locations around the world. Today we're in US East and West, but we're coming out into different locations this year around the world. And the idea is that we're not directly in those clouds, but we're connected using low latency connections to those clouds, and then we can provision those storage directly up to your requirements. But the really cool thing with that is because it's not natively in that cloud, I can disconnect it from Amazon and reconnect it to Azure without any data movement charges.
So it gives you a lot of flexibility, and what I was really surprised to learn about is I would naturally assume that you were getting worse performance than the arrays ran by those manufacturers that are in the same racks or nearby racks to where your compute is. But watching some things like Storage Field Day the other day, you're actually able to, in some use cases, to be able to improve. You improve latency. There's less latency than there is than the native storage.
This is it. So when you compare us against the traditional block storage purchases that you would buy from Amazon or from Microsoft, we're pretty much the same price or cheaper. But actually we get better performance and we get you better feature sets. So if you take a snapshot in those cloud providers, it's incredibly cumbersome. It takes a long time because it's a copy on write snapshot, but also you pay for that cost incremental straight away. With our snapshots, they're redirect and write. We do change block tracking on our snapshots as well, but you only pay for the incremental changes that you make to your data set. So you can take 100,000 snapshots on a Nimble volume within the cloud, but you don't pay for each incremental copy.
So it's a way to bridge the gap between your data center and the cloud, start moving some workloads up there using the tools that are inherent to Nimble. Same data protection algorithms, policies that you're used to using on-premise. Full software as a service management portal I've seen, so it's not kind of some you've got to ring Nimble up to create a volume or anything like that. It's the native tools info site integration as well.
So this is it. So what we're going to try and solve is this app data gap in the cloud. So we believe that if we can tie InfoSight into this, and we can give you visibility of performance, but also capacity growth and trending, but also if we can help you start spotting issues within your cloud provider, then that essentially gives you that entire stack management no matter where you are.
So currently in beta, as I understand it?
In beta now, it's in US West and US East.
Okay.
Anyone can sign up now at cloud.nimblestorage.com.
Okay.
All you need essentially is some compute resource in either one of those locations. It could be Amazon, it could be AWS, it could be Amazon, it could be Microsoft, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Today, there isn't Nimble replication, that's coming later on this year. So we'll be able to replicate a Nimble volume on your on-premises solution up to a Nimble cloud volume, or more importantly, back down again, without having to pay for the ingress or egress charges.
So kind of coming back on premise then, back to the array, you've not kind of left that bit standing behind. Obviously, we mentioned about all flash to start with, but you've also kind of continued to enhance the array to deliver those features that some larger enterprises would expect.
Yes.
Talk to me about some of those.
So our big thing is always software. So we are a technology company. We manufacture hardware, of course. We make all flash arrays and we make hybrid flash arrays, which we call adaptive flash. But our secret sauce has always been in the software. This is what we do best. So we always try and do 2 software feature releases a year, typically every 6 to 8 months, give or take, depending on our release cycle. But that's normally where we're shooting for. So NimbleOS 3 came out last year, and that had the all-flash array code. It also had the deduplication code for the all-flash array, and a few other things like the vVol integration. What we also did to augment that as well was we built integration with Veeam. So we were hearing from a lot of our customers that who use Veeam and Nimble together, they wanted to have the native integration for snapshot awareness and integration. So we built that in conjunction with Veeam, and that got launched as part of Veeam 9.5.
Okay.
So they got launched, I believe, in November last year. So any customer that uses Nimble and has Veeam can just build this today. And it can use all native Nimble technology of snapshots, replication and cloning into the native Veeam backup and recovery. But also then you can use Veeam Explorers to then recover your data back. And it can be across sites. I can actually archive off or back up from a replicated copy on a different site should I want. I get the full functionality. And I also then get Veeam Sandbox to then spin up things in the DR environment should I want to as well. So that's been a big win for us. This is something that a lot of our customers are really driven to, and we're winning business because of that, absolutely. Because it's best of breed technology for both backup and for storage. We also released integration with ArcServe. So ArcServe 6 and 6.5 actually has native Nimble integration for, again, augmented snapshot and backup and replication of our technologies.
And I think this is an important thing. You talk about the app data gap, but it's kind of the business data gap.
Yes.
It's all well and good having an infrastructure that's running, that's performing, but actually when it's not there, what effect is that going to have on the business? How are you going to recover data when you need to be able to recover data? And it's when people talk about backup technology, it's not actually how does it back up, it's how does it recover. And I think that's a really important thing. The fact that you're not just kind of going, no, we use our tools, or we only work with Veeam, the fact that you've got ArcServe there as well, I think there's a nice amount of openness there. People want to be able to choose their own platforms, and Nimble is working with the right providers to make that happen.
Absolutely, and we first did this with Commvault as well. So Commvault has the IntelliSnap engine, and we were the very first storage provider to integrate into the IntelliSnap program. So we've got 3 technology companies, and we offer choice to our customers. But the nice thing is, there's no right answer because every customer requirement's different. So Nimble technology is all inclusive. We don't charge for licensing. So if someone wants to use Veeam replication instead of Nimble replication, absolutely go ahead. There's no skin off our nose to stop someone from doing that because it's what's best for the customer.
And I think that is, whilst you're not truly software defined, you have a critical piece of hardware. I think that is the mentality of the software defined world. That you should have the flexibility, you should have the choice, you should have the mobility to be able to move from one platform to another platform. The way that we spoke about on-premise to the cloud, the way that we spoke about different choice of protection vendors, those are all really important elements in the changing world that we're in at the moment.
And let's be fair, storage vendors have played a game of locking customers in for many, many years. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to give our customers choice and ability to move should they want to. Of course, yes, we would like them to stay on Nimble, but we want to be able to give them the opportunity to say, right, actually, we want to give you the tools to do whatever you need to do, for what's best for your business. So that integration was launched at the back end of last year. We've just done a revision on our hybrid flash array. So that was essentially to bring it in line with the adaptive flash array, because they both use the same controllers. The file system is slightly tweaked, so it is a purpose-built flash file system or a purpose-built hybrid flash system. But the irony is the IOPS of both systems are exactly the same because they're both the same CPU.
Sure.
What's great about the hybrid arrays that we've just done is we've just increased it from 12 drives in our legacy system to 21 drives in our new system, just with an extra 1 U of space.
So greater density, bigger drives as well.
Bigger drives. So we now do 10 terabyte drives.
Okay.
And we can do those 10 terabyte drives without having to be worried about RAID rebuilds because we do our own proprietary RAID set. So the really nice thing about that is we can now get 156 terabytes of usable storage before data reduction in 4U.
And the Nimble has a triple parity that is different to everyone else's, so you're able to rebuild a lot quicker and predict these failures a lot easier. Hence, you haven't got so much of a problem with these larger capacity disks. So
we offer 75% raw to usable, which is one of the best raw to usables on the market. We don't have a hot spare because we don't need it. But also it means we can do data drive rebuilds within hours and not days or weeks. I mean, a 6 terabyte drive in a RAID 6 or RAID 5, you're looking at about a week's worth of rebuild time for that, especially if it's mostly full. We don't need anywhere near that to do a similar rebuild. But also, we can actually spot issues within metadata or issues within the block or the cell on SSD and rebuild from individual cell metadata and parity within the drive. So we actually give you 3 layers of resiliency and redundancy within our RAID set. So it's something that we invented a couple of years ago, and we're now starting to see other storage vendors catch up to the things that we did because it's the only way to really provide data resiliency and availability with larger drives.
Okay, and so we have seen some other things. Obviously, you've got deduplication. You've now got sync rep, I believe, available in the last few weeks. Is it?
Yes, we announced synchronous replication 2 weeks ago. It's a statement of intent. It's not out yet.
Sure.
It will be out in NimbleOS 5 or 6, which I believe will be later on this year.
And I think it's one of those things we've spoken about before. Actually, who needs sync rep? But it's all about choice, isn't it? At the end of the day, if you are somebody that is using a large EMC array and you're using sync rep, well, it's maybe the question isn't whether you need it or not. It's the fact that you've got it, and you're unlikely to take a step back if you're doing that. So you've got Fibre Channel, you've got iSCSI, you've got sync rep or coming sync rep, you've got deduplication on your flash arrays. So it's about being that kind of all-round vendor. You can get your performance, you're bridging the app data gap with the insight and the analytics behind it. So I think next, if maybe we move to some demos in a moment, we look to do a video. So for the meantime, if you'd like to see some more demos in action, watch the following videos.